Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to create an invoicing system using numbers. So I sometimes get questions from people using numbers and they're trying to create invoices, and what they'll do is create an invoice on each sheet. So they create a nice looking invoice and then they'll duplicate it and have different sheets in the same document or even different documents. The problem is you might as well just be using Pages or something to do that, as you can't really do much with the data. The correct way to use a spreadsheet is to put records in rows, where each row is a record for something, like say billable hours. And then if you want to create invoices, have a single invoice that pulls data from that. So here's what such an invoice may look like. But I haven't entered any of this data except for this client ID. Watch what happens if I change the client ID. I'm going to change it to client 5. If I do that, notice the name of the client changes, these records change, the total changes, and I have an entirely new invoice. The way I've created that is by creating tables using records as rows. So I actually have two sheets. One is a sheet with clients in it, and it's just client IDs and names. And the other is a list of records of billable hours. And that's the only tables I need to create this invoice. So my first sheet here shows clients. And this is a table where I've entered in the data manually. It's a client ID, just a number, and a name. So it's all just entered in. I can add more to the list as I get new clients. Now, consultations is a sheet here that actually has a record on each row. And the record is a client number, then name, and then information about that set of billable hours. Some of these are entered in manually. I enter the client number, I put a date, number of hours, and the rate. Now the total, as you can guess, is calculated using a formula. So that's just the number of hours times the rate. Simple enough. The name is actually looked up automatically. So it's using the lookup function, and then it will look up from this number here, the client number that's entered in, and it will go to this table, look up the ID in this column, and grab the name out of that column. And that's how that works. So all I need to do is say if I wanted to change this client, I go to number 3 and you can see it changes the name automatically. So I can start a new record without having to type the entire client's name, just their ID. In addition, I've got this paid field here. I actually manually enter that in. So somebody pays the invoice that has these hours on it, I will type in the date that they paid, which is a good piece of information to have and also gives me a record of the fact that they've paid this line here. So how does this invoice work? Well, this name here works the same way as the name on the consultations sheet does. It just looks up the client ID from this number here and grabs the ID from this column and then the name from this column and puts it in the invoice. So that's how that works. This is a lot trickier. So I'm going to start by doing something special in the consultations table. You may have noticed there's another column in there. I'm going to show you what that is and how it works. So this do flag is just a name I came up with. Has numbers in it, a bunch of zeros. And you can see the zeros are always when something has been paid. Then you can see there's a couple numbers here. There's 1 and 2. What these are indicating is that there is an unpaid record here. So this is client 5, and client 5 matches the client ID here. So client 5, and they've got a blank space here under paid. So the formula for this is looking at two things. First, is the client ID, this number here, equal to this number here? And if it is, so far so good. We're doing an AND statement, so we have two conditions. The other condition is this cell here blank? And if it is, that means we have an unpaid line here. What value are we going to put there? So if this is true, then we're going to put the number 1 there. But not just the number 1. We're also going to count all of the previous cells in this row. And anything that is greater than 0 right here, anything greater than 0 is going to count as 1. And we're going to add that together. So 1 plus all the previous ones greater than 0, there's none. But this one is 1 plus all of the previous ones greater than 0, there's 1. So it's a 2. if I were to go here and change the client ID to client 7 and I go back to consultations, you can see I've got a 1, then a 2, then a 3, then a 4. So it's just counting up for each one of the rows that has client 7 and a blank. 7 and a blank. So I've got this handy stuff in there. I can hide this column if I want to because I don't really need to actually manually use it. It'll all happen automatically. So what's happening with the invoice? It's obviously grabbing the rows where there are numbers there in that special column. So you're not seeing everything here in this table. You can see it starts with column B. I'm going to go ahead and unhide all columns and you can see what's here. So you've got row A. And row A has 13, 16, 17, and 18, which correspond to the rows that have numbers in it. 13, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, how's it doing that? Well, it's using the match function. So it's matching the row number, in this case row 2, minus 1. So it would be 1. I have to minus 1 because row 1 is actually the header here. And then it's looking in this column here, that do flag column. It's also saying, hey, if it's an error, just use a 0 instead because the match function will return an error if it doesn't find it. I want it to return a 0 if it doesn't find it. So basically it's saying the match for 2 minus 1 is 13, 3 minus 1 is 16, 4 minus 1 is 17, 5 minus 1 is 18. So they correspond to 1, 2, 3, 4, which corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 4. So this entire column here, its only purpose is to get the row numbers for those records where they're unpaid hours. Now, each one of these is simply grabbing the index from this column that matches the value in this row. So the date column, row 13, and then the date column, row 16. And it's using if and saying, look, if it's greater than 0, if this number here is greater than 0, then do it. Otherwise, put blank in there. Why? Well, because this table here is actually much bigger than 4 different records. If I go to organize and I turn off filters, you can see I've got 10 spaces in there. Zeros are saying, hey, I don't have anything here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 records, and then there's no 5th record, no 6th record, no 7th record. So it's saying 0. So then this here has that same formula in it, but it's doing a blank because it's a 0 over there. And all of these are doing a blank. So this one is the hours is looking for the hours column that matches 13. And this one's looking for the rate column that matches 13. And the total column that matches 13. So I get 4 filled in rows and 6 blank rows. And thanks to the filter, all of the blank rows are gone and missing. I don't want them. Then I'm using a simple sum formula for the hours there. Nothing special about that. A sum formula for the total. Nothing very special about that. This is just saying take the value from here and also stick it there so we have the total in 2 places. And there's my invoice. And the great thing is I can pick another client ID and it'll pick up rows 12 and 13 instead of the 13 and 15, 16, 17 or whatever those rows were, and give me new blank ones. If I pick a client that has no outstanding hours, then I get something that looks like this, and I would never, of course, send the invoice. So I can go ahead and use this for any number and it will give me the invoice values. I can get rid of this row here by hiding it, or this column by hiding it right there. So it's nice and neat. And now I can basically add items here. I can add new client here. And then anytime I want to make an invoice, all I do is enter in a number there. And now I can print or save it as a PDF to generate this invoice. Obviously I'm showing something really specific there, but hopefully you get the general idea. And I'll make this entire numbers document available for you to download at this post at MACMOST.com.